You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So again, this month we are focusing on Tier 1 intervention, and that is those class lessons. So these are your classroom guidance lessons or your classroom SEL lessons and how you can best do those. So last week I talked to you about 5 classroom management strategies that you can implement to keep behaviors in check. And this week I'm going to talk to you about the anatomy of an engaging class lesson. So this is a pretty quick episode. I just want to share with you like a choose your own adventure here, how you can create an engaging class lesson with some ideas. So an engaging class lesson consists of 4 parts. First, you have icebreakers. Next, you have a lesson. Third, you have a discussion, and fourth, a review. So whenever you're building your lesson, you likely have 20 or 30 minutes. You can choose something from each of these categories to make sure that you're teaching the material the best way you know how. You may have a curriculum to go off of, such as Second Step, or you may just be completely winging it. Either way, even if you're doing Second Step, you can still take something from each of these categories to kind of integrate into your lesson to make it more of your own or to modify it a little bit if you don't want to follow it to a T. Or if you are supposed to create your own lessons and you're feeling completely lost, then this is definitely for you. So first up, icebreakers. So we want to get the kids having fun, right? You're only coming in there once a month. You want your class lesson experience to be a positive one, and you want to get everyone loosened up and ready to learn. So I totally recommend doing an icebreaker. Now, some examples of an icebreaker. You could do a bingo game. And with the bingo game, you just play regular bingo, but you could have it related to the topic that you're going to be teaching. So, for example, if your class lesson is going to be on anger management strategies, you could have an anger management bingo board or self-regulation bingo board or coping strategies bingo board. Another example of an icebreaker is a guided meditation. So this is a great way to get everyone kind of calm and centered and ready to focus, regardless of topic. But this is an especially fun icebreaker if you're going to do a mindfulness lesson. So you can just dive right in and say, we're going to start with a guided meditation to kind of have everyone practice a mindful moment and just reflect and clear some space so they're ready to learn. It's a great way to practice visualizing. And if your school is a little wary of using the word meditation or a little hesitant, I know sometimes it's associated with like spirituality and some schools are hesitant to do that. It's a mindful moment is another way that you could phrase this. Next up for icebreakers, you can do an I have, who has. So this game is kind of funny. It's so I first learned about it in relation to like math, for example. So someone would say, I have 2 plus 2, who has 4? So they have a card that says that. And then someone else's card would say, oh, I have 4, who has 3 plus 1? Or something like that. So they're learning the math problem while matching, but the best part about this is that they have to be paying attention to their card. They have to be listening. So it's a fun one. It requires some attention for sure. So you could do like, I have count to 10, who has coping strategy, or I have friend who has support system, something like that. They're kind of a little tricky to build, but when done right, they can be really effective. Another fun one for getting kids to pay attention, and I love to use this one if we're doing like a lesson on like focus and attention or even self-control. Well, for self-control, I have another one, but for focus and attention, you could do a Simon Says. So Simon says, put your hands on your head. Simon says, put your hands on your hips, jump up and down. And if they start jumping, they weren't focusing or they weren't following directions. So that's a great one to use for following directions. As you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm showing you an icebreaker that's just fun in general, but it's related to the topic that you're going to teach to kind of get students thinking that way. For self-control, you've probably seen the bubbles. That's a fun one. You blow bubbles. They try not to pop them. A scavenger hunt is a fun one to do. So you can hide different words related to what you're going to teach around the room, and students have to go find them. So that's a way they can start thinking about what they're about to learn. And finally, charades is a good one. So again, let's say you're going to teach on coping skills. You can start off with some charades, an icebreaker of students doing charades of different coping skills. Even if they don't really know what they are yet, they might just get a card that says count to 10, and they have to act that out. And then you can go into your lesson explaining that that's a coping skill. So icebreakers are totally fun. I love doing them when they're relevant to the topic. And if you are virtual, some of the ones I said may still work for you. If not, you can do some simple ones like a would you rather game. You could still do virtual charades. You can do a virtual guided meditation. So you are a little limited, but get creative. There's tons of things you can still do online. Now, after an icebreaker, so that's like a first 5 minutes, warm up, you're going to move right along into a lesson. So this is your core content. So you're there to teach them something, right? This is a class lesson. So let's say that you're teaching them coping strategies, like we said. So during the coping strategies part, you could do a video. I love to use videos during class lessons. So you can show a YouTube video and have this prepared in advance, so you're not searching around. It's best if you even download it to your computer to avoid getting ads or anything. But show a video and then have students discuss the video. Kids love videos. They find them super engaging, and they feel like they're getting a special treat to watch a movie. Speaking of, I saw on Instagram the other day, and I was just cracking up. It was like, you were born in the 90s if you remember this. And it was one of those carts pushing the big TV out that you would watch, and you would get so amped when that was coming to your classroom. I thought that was funny. But kind of the same thing. A video is like, oh, we get to watch a movie. We get to watch a video. So I like to show that, and then the kids get to discuss it quickly after. Another thing I love to do to teach a lesson is a scoot game. So a scoot game is where students have a piece of paper with like 1 through 30, let's say, and then it will say yes or no, and they put it on a clipboard, and they're walking around the room, and then you have cards 1 through 30 laid out around the room, and it will say something on the card like counting to 10 is a coping strategy, yes or no, and then on their paper they circle yes or no. So it's a quick, easy win kind of question, nothing too complex, but it is reinforcing a skill. And then you would say scoot, and then they move to the next card and answer the question in the next card. So this is a good physical one, kind of like I talked about in the last lesson. Getting kids up and moving is a good way to manage behaviors in a preventative way. So a scoot game is great for that, and they're just fun. My kiddos love them for sure. I like to play the Wipeout song, I like to play that one because it kind of creates like some hype and urgency, and they're scooting around really fast. It's fun. So you can do a video for the lesson, a scoot game, a role play. So you can provide students with different scenarios and have them role play it as a way to learn the lesson. Or a flow chart. So sometimes you just want to keep it visual, and it's easier just to present the material. This is a little less interactive, so not ideal, but sometimes depending on what the material is, it's just the best way to present it. And then, so now you have an icebreaker. You're going to teach your core content. So now the students have learned a new skill. They've learned something new. And then you're going to do a discussion. So, for example, after the video or after the scoot game or after the role play, you would discuss what they think about it, if they've been in this situation before, if they can relate to it, anything like that. So you could do a simple think, pair, share. You can use discussion cards. You can use a discussion dice game, maybe at one of those big foam die and sit in a circle and roll it around. Again, virtually, these are all adaptable. You can roll an online die, have like a random card generator, random name generator, choose who's going to answer which discussion card. So they're discussing the material they've just learned and thinking about practical applications in their everyday life. And the fourth category is a review. So now that they've learned something new, you want to review it to make sure that they remember it and retain this information. So if you're in person, you could do a beach ball review game where you're tossing the beach ball, and where their hands land, they answer those questions. Now, I have got a little feedback that this is definitely unsanitary in today's climate, so that's a fun one. I used to do, but it may not be a best choice for now. But you could do something similar, the same concept, but less hands-on. Or you could do a booklet or flip book. So if you have some time, get them back at their desk, do a craft. They can cut and paste and make a flip book or a booklet to review the concepts. Same with an interactive notebook. You could do a jumbo sort, so get them in groups and then they have to sort different statements or something. So for example, like a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset to review what they've learned. A foldable is something you could do. They could make a collage. So that's always a fun one to review what they've learned using like newspaper. If they're online, they can just search for different images and copy paste them on a doc. They can do a craft. So if a craft is applicable to what you were teaching. So for example, with friendship lessons with little kids, I like to do friendship pizza where they're putting different qualities of a friend. So for example, like a mushroom is a good listener, something like that. And that's a craft example they could do. Crafts and flip books and such do take a little more time. So, you'll know how long you have with your kiddos. If you're in there for 20 minutes versus 40 minutes, this could determine what you do for your review activity. And then you could do a drawing finally. So again, have them kind of draw or write out. They could do journaling or drawing to review what they've learned. So that was kind of a lot. I was just throwing them out there for you. I hope you got some good ideas. But basically, this is an anatomy of an engaging class lesson. So if you were to break it apart, an engaging class lesson has 4 parts. It has an icebreaker. It has the actual instruction or the lesson. It has a discussion piece, and it has a review component. So those are the 4 things: icebreaker, lesson, discussion, review. So you want to start off with a fun icebreaker that is related to your topic to get the kids going. Then you want to move right along into the instruction and the lesson, so they're learning a new concept. You want to give them some time to debrief and discuss what they've just learned, and then end it all up with a review so they can retain the information and take it with them. Okay, I hope you find this helpful. Next time you sit down to plan a class lesson, I hope this saves you a little bit of time because you kind of have a starting point to work from. Next week, we will continue to talk about class lessons because that is our topic for the month of February. So I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.